Welcome everyone to a new video of Think History. My very first video after a few months back. I think it's been a year. Actually, no, wait. Probably 8 to 9 months. Yeah. So this time I'm going to be reacting to historical videos from different channels. And we are going to do World War II by Oversimplified, the first part. And this is going to be from like the aftermath of World War One to the start of World War Two. So I'm just going to pick up a few notes from this and just like explain it briefly. It would just be for like, I don't know, 30 to a minute. So yeah, not that much. And guys, do please like, subscribe, comment, and do share it as well, so I could like, get a bit of publicity. Alright, whatever. So let's get started.
Now, without further ado, it's 1902. A young man by the name of Benito Mussolini moves from Italy to Switzerland to avoid military service. He gets big into socialism, working for trade unions, writing for socialist newspapers, advocating a violent overthrow of European monarchies, the whole shebang. This gets him in a bit of trouble with the Swiss police, so he gets arrested, sent back to Italy, set free, returns to Switzerland, is arrested again, goes back to Italy again, completes his military service after previously avoiding it, and then after a brief stint as an elementary school teacher...
Benito Mussolini, he was a elementary school teacher. Over here in the UK, it is called a primary school teacher, I think. I'm not so fond with the educational system in the United States because I live here in the UK in London. So yeah, obviously I don't even know what's like 10th grade in the US or like 11th grade. I think I'm 11th grade in the US. Wouldn't that be year 10? I'm not so sure, but yeah, he was a elementary school teacher, and surprising, he got arrested going to Switzerland, and then he comes back, and then he was in the army, and then becomes a school teacher, and then later on he ends up becoming the Prime Minister of Italy under a fascist dictatorship.
He finally returns to work as an avid socialist. His speeches and journalistic abilities made him famous among Italian socialists. He was anti-war, so when Italy colonized Libya in 1910, he rioted and got arrested. Then World War I came along, and once again he protested Italy's involvement. But then he thought, wait a minute, this war could bring about the...
So he was don't mind that, by the way. He was a anti-war activist. He didn't like war until like he thought like, you know what, we could just like have nationalism spread by empire. He wanted to create a new Roman Empire, and that did not work at all. Whereas you compare it with Germany and Japan, quite effective, I have to say. They went from conquering Germany, they went from conquering Denmark to Norway to Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, Greece, Hungary, all the way to France, and they could have invaded the UK, but when Germany invaded the UK and the Soviet Union, big mistake. At least tried to. I mean, they did invade USSR anyway.
Social climate needed to overthrow European monarchies and bring about the socialist revolution everywhere. And suddenly he was pro-war. But his fellow socialists didn't like his new pro-war stance, so they kicked him out of the party. So then he said, you know what? I'm done with socialism. We need something new, not based on class divisions tearing us apart, but based on unity through nationality.
Mussolini's Italy, is that one country, or like the president of the country or prime minister, to say like, you know what? We need to create something new. We are going to become the new empire, and as soon as they try to invade a country, they fail miserably as well. They're like, oh shit, they're kicking our butts. You know what, I think we need to abdicate.
We'll conquer the Mediterranean and reunite all Italian peoples just like the days of the Roman Empire. I'll call it fascismo, and it will guide the Italian nation to greatness. That's all well and good, Mr. Mussolini, but what kind of haircut am I giving you? Let's go with...
Bold.
Bold.
Oh, wow. Bro, honestly, he looks kind of intimidating. Like, with that bold haircut, he's that type of guy to be so effective in a war. But then in World War II, Italy is just so bad. So bad that even Hitler has to help him.
Italy had been on the winner's side in World War.
Oh, and I think Germany, Austria-Hungary, who were amongst the losers, they were in an alliance with Italy until some dispute between Austria-Hungary and Italy was like, you know what? Because the UK promised me land that would be given to me after the Central Powers defeat, I'll join the Allies. And they got very little from that territory that they were promised by the UK, and they were like, I just lost 600k soldiers, and you give me this amount of territory. I had to break my alliance with my old friends just to be with you, so you could give me some territory, and instead you just give me very little, despite losing a lot of men and despite losing my alliance with my old friends. Bruv, you're a scammer, man. I might want to say F you, but nah, man, I'm pretty sure there are kids watching this. They absolutely don't care about my videos.
And they hoped they were going to get a lot out of it.
Exactly.
But in the end, they only got a little, and they felt cheated. On top of that, a bad economy and weak governments meant that the Italian people were a little unhappy. So when Mussolini came along and said that he could fix everything, his fascist movement gained a lot of support.
So this is like Hitler. Hitler was like, Germany has been betrayed by Jews and communists, and I can fix the economy, I can fix the morality of people. And just like that, everyone was like, you know what, yeah, he can fix it. You know what, we need to rely on Hitler, we need to rely on Mussolini. He's the only guy who can help us. Without him, we're broke. So it's like something like that, you know?
In 1922, he went to the king and said, make me prime minister or I'll make me prime minister. And the king said, you and what army? This army.
Oh damn, that's a lot of baldies.
Fair enough. Then he went about establishing a dictatorship with himself at its center. Europe had its first fascist dictator. Next up, Germany. Germany had been on the loser's side, and they got absolutely...
When I mean by wrecked, absolutely wrecked. Like, yeah, you could just say that even though without the spelling, man. Like, let me just tell you something. The Treaty of Versailles is absolutely responsible for the rise of Hitler, for the rise of the Nazi Party. Pretty much, the Treaty of Versailles is the reason why 6 million Jews are dead. Yeah, so when it comes Germany's atrocities, what they've done to the Jews, known as the Holocaust, I do not like that whatsoever. I respect every single religion. I personally think we shouldn't be divided just because of our religion. Religion is religion. It's basically like we are divided by our parents, but we could still be friends. But yeah, I have to agree with Germany on this when it comes to the Treaty of Versailles. It was a huge mistake. Just give enough punishment, not so much punishment that you have to, like, you know, just make them hate on someone. Imagine this. Let's say, don't mind that, by the way. You're basically being hated by a lot of people. Being hated by a lot of people? Wait, what? Yeah, so you're being hated by a lot of people. Don't mind that, by the way. Being hated by a lot of people. Jeez, oh my days, these messages, man. Go away. I'll talk to you later, man. They're my friends. So you're in a war, right? And you get defeated by allies or whoever you're fighting with, and then they impose a lot of strict sanctions. Don't mind that. And then, like, they give you a harsh condition. It is so harsh that you have the audacity to, like, blame someone for this. Like, Germany, they could have just blamed the French and the British, but instead they blame the Jews and the Marxists. I mean, they did blame the UK and France, but they also blamed the USSR. The USSR became its predecessor was the Russian Empire. The Russian Empire was an undeveloped country, and obviously they were quite slow. Don't mind that. They were quite slow entering the First World War, and in 1917 it was the revolution. The Bolsheviks, who were the communists led by Vladimir Lenin, they go into civil war, and yeah, they eventually became a victor state, and then a victor militia, I guess. And yeah, the Soviet Union was formed. So Hitler hated communism and Jews. And he also blamed the UK and France for giving them the conditions. So I have to agree with him on that.
Wrecked by the Treaty of Versailles. They lost territory, had to demilitarize the Rhineland, had to reduce their army to just 100,000 men, couldn't have an air force, had to pay the Allies a huge amount of money that it didn't have, and a new rule was established that every Englishman withheld the right to walk into the center of Berlin, pick out any German they wanted, and spank the hell out of them. I made that last one up, but it helps you understand how all of this felt to German.
So what he's trying to say is that the UK and France, they absolutely destroyed Germany as a state. The army was dismantled. Many people, like the German Empire, the people of the German Empire, they were absolutely happy for their state. They actually thought that Germany was gonna win. Germany was like this sort of superpower when World War One broke out in 1914. But then, on the 11th of the 11th in 1918 at 11 a.m., when the ceasefire came into place, an armistice had been signed, and when Germany surrendered, the German people were like, "What the hell? How did we lose? We were not supposed to lose. We were supposed to win. What?" It was like this type of thing where, oh my days, my country was so huge. It was a huge empire, had a huge army. I guess economy was good. I'm not so sure about that, but yeah, it was supposed to be such a huge state, a huge empire that was strong and mentally and physically strong. And then after 4 years of fighting, we're defeated, and we've been humiliated by the Allies.
On top of that, a bad economy and weak governments meant that when a small angry man with a silly mustache came along and said that he could fix everything, the German people...
So this is like Mussolini. Hitler's like, the Jews and the Marxists are our enemies. They're the reason why Germany has been defeated. They're the reason why we've been undermined. They're the reason why we are destroyed. And I'm going to do everything I can to revive Germany as a state and as a nation. And we are going to increase our army, increase the economy, revive the economy, and make the enemies pay for everything. So this is where anti-Semitism becomes a really big thing. Many people get confused that anti-Semitism happened with Hitler. I'm not so sure if you're fond with history, but anti-Semitism was a huge thing in the 1890s, from the 1900s, even in World War One. At a point where Jews were blamed for the Black Plague. Those of you who do not know the Black Plague, the Black Death that happened in London, in Europe, which killed many, many, many people. Oh, and by the way, speaking of disease, I'm pretty sure the Spanish flu, the influenza, happened after World War One. Many people died just like in World War One, like a loss of life, man. Damn.
People loved it. Hitler had been a soldier during World War One, and he was...
And I think there was a British soldier known as Henry Tandy, who had a standoff with Hitler, had the opportunity to kill him, but chose mercy over murder. Or I would say no mercy. And yeah, he's gonna live with that with the rest of his life. I'm the reason why this man killed 6 million Jews. I'm the reason why World War II has started.
Crazy patriotic, and nobody was madder than him about Germany's humiliation. He helped start a new political party, and in 1923 attended a march on Munich with his boys. And then he got arrested. But
it wasn't that type of jail time where you go to jail for 20 years, no parole, you don't get bailed, you don't get people to like get you out. It was this type of dictatorship. It was kind of like an Escobar prison. Like Escobar, he created a prison for himself. He got into prison, yeah? Hitler, he got into prison, yeah? But it was the type of prison where you just dictate it. It was like a hotel, basically, for him. He just wrote books. I think it was like he needed time until he got popularity. The rise of the Nazi Party, the rise of anti-Semitism, the rise of criticism and prejudice towards the mentally ill, the disabled, and yeah. Don't mind me. It was this type of like, you know what? Let's wait until everyone listens to us type of thing.
Popularity grew and grew, and in 1933, the president made him chancellor. He believed he was Germany's great destined savior, and he went full megalomaniac, establishing a dictatorship with himself at its center. Europe had fascist dictator number 2. Hitler and Mussolini had a lot of the same ideas, but more importantly, they had the same enemies, and they started to get along. Anyone else want to be friends? Franco? No? You good? I do. Who's that? It's Japan, and they've taken over northern China. Let's rewind a bit. Japan had isolated itself from the rest of the world for over 200 years until the Americans showed up and said, you're going to trade with us and you're going to like it. Then the Western powers imposed a bunch of unequal treaties, meaning Japan's economy was bust. They also had no natural resources, so they decided...
Japan, I think watching a historical video which was an hour and 25 minutes long, they had 3 options: either negotiate for raw materials, or lay down the Japanese Empire, or number 3, invade, conquer until you get those resources. I'm not so sure how if their economy if their economy was bust and they didn't have any raw materials, and I do not know how they managed to conquer, because you need to have resources to invade. Like, you need money. You need money to invade. You basically military spending, and like, where did the guns come from? Where did the tanks? Those all come from materials, don't they? So I'm not so sure how they managed to invade without having any resources, unless if the remaining of their resources, don't mind that, the remaining of their resources, they used it on Korea, Manchuria, don't mind that, and maybe they could have got resources from the Qing Empire, also known as China, or Republic of China.
To go get some. They went to war with China to gain a sphere of influence over Korea, and they took a bunch of China's stuff. But then the West said, hey, cut that out. And since Japan couldn't take on the West, they said, okay, I guess we'll just go home. Wait a minute, what are you doing? Taking advantage of a weakened China and setting up spheres of influence. But I was the one who weakened them. We know. And you guys didn't let me have anything. We know. That seems unfair. We don't think so. Okay, see ya. So Japan thought, screw this, and went to war with Russia.
So the Russo-Japanese war, everyone, including the Russian people, expected Russia to win, but they didn't, and they were humiliated. Like, Russia, not only the people were humiliated, but the Tsar, don't mind that, Nicholas II, who was the monarch of Russia, the last one, he expected, you know what, I think we're going to win this Japanese war. They're not going to win, and nope, they lost. And it was a humiliating defeat for the Tsar.
And stunned everyone by actually winning.
Yeah.
Then they fully annexed Korea, but they didn't stop there. In World War I, they took Germany's colonies and islands in Asia. And then in an incident that was maybe staged by the Japanese army, a bomb blew up a Japanese train in Manchuria, giving them an excuse to launch an invasion and take over. So here's the situation. Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, and Japan all believe they're racially superior, all feel hostile.
So this is like this sort of rise of nationalism, being like, we are the dominant powers, no one can beat us. No one can beat us. We're the ones who are gonna appear as a victor state. When you want to invade and you're like a nationalist, then I'm sorry, but there's a point where it's not gonna work, because you'd do anything to get what you want. Because look, this is nationalism. They're trying to increase their empire. You do anything to get what you want. This is what happened with Chamberlain and Hitler, and I think this is probably what happened with Japan and America, and with Italy and the UK. I guess Italy and the UK, maybe.
Towards the Allies, and all want to militarize and take over more stuff. And so they did. Let's start with Germany. Hitler hated the Treaty of Versailles, and now he was ready to begin undoing
Like
it.
I said before, the Treaty of Versailles, absolutely responsible for the rise of Hitler, the rise of the Nazi Party, the rise of anti-Semitism in the Third Reich. Like, I don't blame him for that.
Violation of the treaty. The first Luftwaffe squadrons were set up, conscription was introduced, and he pimped up his army. The Allies did nothing. Then Hitler sent his army back into the demilitarized Rhineland, giving orders to immediately retreat if the Allies showed up. The Allies did nothing. With his military re-strengthened, he could now move on to step 2. He wanted to rapidly increase the Aryan population, and to do
so, yeah. It was like a sort of feudal system where the Aryan German race are the superior, no one can beat them, and all the way at the bottom are the Marxists and the Jews. Marxists meaning the communists. So this was Hitler's ambition. And when I said about Mussolini's ideology, I might have said that. Mussolini's ideology comes way before World War I, whereas Hitler's ideology, it comes after World War I, where he's like, Germany has been defeated and I know who's responsible. Marxists and Jews, they're the reason why we're down, they're the reason why we've lost, and they're the reason why we've been punished severely.
So he needed Lebensraum, or in other words, he would have to take over the world. But for now, a good portion of Europe would do, and he began eyeing up his neighbors. The Allies finally started to get worried, so they implemented a fairly useless diplomatic strategy called appeasement, and it went a little something like this. Hitler would say,
appeasement did not work at all. Like, you're dealing with someone who wants to increase their empire. Dude, it's not going to work. You can't negotiate with them. They're going to do everything. They're going to try to do everything to get what they want. It's kind of like Putin. He wants to create the USSR again by invading Ukraine, which is, I'm not so sure if it's working or not, and I'm neutral in this war.
Want that thing. And the Allies would say, you can't have that thing. Okay, you can have that thing, but no more. I want that thing. And repeat. In 1938, Hitler's army marched into Austria and just took it, with no resistance. Boom, this is Germany now. Next, he demanded to be given the Sudetenland, an area of Czechoslovakia with many ethnic Germans. The Allies held a meeting with Hitler in Munich and said, look, we're going to give you what... Hang on. This meeting is about my territory. Shouldn't I come to the meeting too? Anyway, we're going to give you what you want. Really? Yeah. Just like that? Yep. What's the catch? Just sign this piece of paper promising you won't invade the rest of Czechoslovakia. Okay. Then Chamberlain returned home victorious, waving his signed piece of paper in the air, declaring crisis to be averted and the continuation of world peace. And we built a statue of Chamberlain in his honor, and every day on the 30th of September we celebrate Chamberlain Day. Hitler's invading the rest of Czechoslovakia.
Oh, damn.
What? He's invading the rest of Czechoslovakia.
Criticism be like, oh, well.
You lied to me. What do you expect? I'm Hitler.
Yep.
Not to be outdone, Mussolini also wanted to get in on the action. He thought to himself, isn't there a not yet colonized nation somewhere which is so underdeveloped that the people would be defending themselves against our tanks with literal bows and arrows and wooden spears? Oh, there is? Fantastic. And so he took it. Italy also wanted to control the entrance to the Adriatic Sea, so they occupied Albania. Then, in another incident which was maybe staged by the Japanese, gunfire was exchanged by Japanese and Chinese troops at the Marco Polo Bridge, and the Japanese launched yet another invasion against China. They swept through Beijing and Shanghai, and then advanced through the Yangtze Valley to China's then capital, Nanking. It was here that saw the worst of Japan.
Yeah, this is the rape of Nanjing or Nanking. It was an absolutely brutal massacre. Think of it. Your capital, the capital city of China was Nanking, and the capital was absolutely bombarded by Japanese soldiers. I'm sorry, but I'm not even going to call them soldiers. I'd have to call them terrorists or murderers, because I think apparently once they captured Nanking, they didn't know what to do, and then they were like, let's just kill people. We got nothing to do. I'm bored. Let's just have some combat, fun time. And that's what they did. They massacred them. A lot of people died. Till this day, which is still astonishing, till this day, Japan does not admit to their atrocities, and they claim it was self-defense. I don't even think they apologized. I saw a video where it said that Japan apologizes for the atrocities in World War II. Germany apologized for the Jewish massacre of the Holocaust, but it's kind of interesting how America, they befriended Japan after World War II, but then Japan, they didn't admit to their atrocities. Everyone was like that type of thing to Germany. Germany was also allied with the Western allies, but it was this type of thing where I don't think Germany's trustworthy with the massacre that they did to the Jews, because that is what everyone focuses attention to. When people think of World War II, when it comes to atrocities, they think of the Holocaust, the Jewish massacre of the European Jews, 6 million of them. But when it comes to China, this is, for them, this is the Holocaust, the rape of Nanjing. Absolutely bloody massacre. Brutal. It was like a no mercy, no remorse type of thing. No empathy, no sympathy.
And shocking atrocities committed against the Chinese people. Back in Europe, Germany and Italy made their relationship status official by signing the Pact of Steel. Then, Hitler turned his eyes towards Poland and the hated Polish corridor, splitting Germany in two. At this point, the Allies really had to put their foot down, and they warned him that an invasion of Poland would mean war. Hitler had planned to continue his advance eastward, but he didn't want to end up fighting a war on two fronts. So for now, he made an alliance with Stalin, saying, how about we both invade Poland and split it between the two of us, and I definitely won't not refrain from not betraying you sometime in the future. Sounds good. This new alliance stunned the West. On the 1st of September 1939, German troops entered Poland, and Britain and France declared war on Germany.
Then they didn't do anything.
The Poles fought hard, but they were no match for the two...
Oh, and by the way, I saw a video where it was this channel called The Life Guide. They said that the Polish they were like, what do you call it, undermined by the Soviet Union and Germany. Poland, they did fight hard, really hard, but because obviously, like two countries are pushing on you, obviously you're gonna be dealt with a lot of pressure. And by the way, Germany had a tactic known as the blitzkrieg, known as lightning war. So obviously, yeah, a lot of pressure from that. So yeah, they did fight hard, but they were dealt with a lot of pressure.
Giants crashing down on them from either side. Then came a period known as the phony war,
Yep.
where everyone just sort of sat around not doing much.
So think about it. Chamberlain, he was criticized so much because first he said that war was not to be declared. There's peace with Germany with the peace in our time speech. And just like that, Hitler invades the rest of Czechoslovakia. He gets criticism being like, Mr. Chamberlain, you literally just said that we have peace with Germany. Hitler's not gonna invade the rest of Czechoslovakia. And now as soon as you say this, Germany invades Czechoslovakia. He was dealt with a lot of criticism, and when Hitler invaded Poland, the Allies, UK and France, declared war on Germany, and yet it was the phony war. They didn't do anything against Germany. They were like, okay, I don't think this is our problem, so we let you do what you want. In the meantime, just don't attack us. So I'm gonna have to say Chamberlain was probably a coward. A huge coward.
The French had launched a small invasion into the Saarland, but they maintained mostly defensive positions, and after a while decided to just turn around and call it a day. Speaking of France, the French were still super proud of their victory in World War I, and they hadn't really moved on from it. They still used horses, they dispatched messages by motorbike instead of using radio, orders from the commander-in-chief were usually pretty vague, and the troops were rarely inspected. They built a line of defenses along their German border, but didn't bother extending it all the way to the Channel, and they wouldn't launch artillery strikes against Germany out of fear of being retaliated against. In a war, they didn't want to attack the enemy.
The fact that they even let Germany build their resources, they let Germany build their army. Like, think about it, the Wehrmacht, which was the Third Reich army, and the Luftwaffe, the Air Force of Germany, they might have been trained so much to a point where, obviously, France, they were knocked out, and then comes in Vichy France, the puppet state of Germany.
And at first the UK wasn't much better. Chamberlain still naively hoped that the war could be ended diplomatically. Instead of bombing raids, the RAF dropped propaganda leaflets over German cities, which one air marshal said likely did nothing but provide the continent with toilet paper for the duration of the war. They also only sent 200,000 men to France, while the French had mobilized millions. Both Britain and France wanted to avoid a repeat of the First World War.
So yeah, this is what I'm talking about. History, well, what am I saying? I'd even mention it. So history and politics are so combined. They're basically brothers or sisters, I would say. Well, they're brothers, and when you don't remember history, politics is gonna come. Obviously, many people are gonna say they don't like politics. Well, I'm sorry, but that's what you get when you don't study history. Obviously, politics is gonna come into your life if you don't remember history. Like, really does depend what history you're learning about. Like my parents, I'm originally from Pakistan, so obviously they learned about British India when India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Burma were all dominated by the British Empire. It was one country known as the Indian subcontinent, British Raj or British India. So it does depend what history you're learning about. It does depend what topic you're learning about in history. Anyone could be learning about the American Revolution, American Civil War between the Unionists and the Confederates, or the Russian Revolution, Russian Civil War. So it really does depend. Obviously, in Japan, they're not going to tell you about the massacre that they did because they didn't admit to it. They're going to be like, oh, it's just a Chinese myth, a Chinese fairy tale. That's what they're going to say. At least some will say.
War. And so they wanted to keep the war as far from home as possible. So they turned their eyes north, towards Norway. Neutral Sweden was exporting iron ore to Germany through neutral Norway, so the Allies asked them if they could please stop exporting iron ore to Germany, but this request was refused. Then the Soviet Union attacked Finland, so the Allies said, how about we land troops in Norway and move them across...
The Soviet Union, they were expected to win against Finland, but the Soviet Union, they only gained a little amount of territory. For some reason, Hitler thought that the winter was a threat to the Red Army, and that is why Hitler thought that he could invade them. Dude, winter is so common in Russia or the Soviet Union. Why would you invade them if you My days. Hitler, man. Don't know why he invaded the Soviet Union despite...
Sweden to go help out your good pal Finland, and along the way maybe take control of all your arms fields. But Norway and Sweden still said no. So the UK
Norway and Sweden were one country, by the way.
mined the waters around Norway to force any transport ships into international waters, and they also attacked a German tanker they found in the area. Hitler realized what the Allies were up to, and he quickly moved to secure his supply of iron ore. He launched an invasion through Denmark into Norway. The Allies rushed to land troops at key ports along the coast, but Germany had taken control of Norway's airfield, and their air superiority decided the fight. The Allies had to retreat. After this slightly embarrassing failure, Chamberlain resigned.
So, Chamberlain, honestly, he was so pathetic. Honestly, many people could be a fan of Chamberlain till this day, but I don't think he was a great prime minister at all. Well, I have to agree with him. No one likes war. No one wants to start war. Like, I don't know why Russia started war, but anyways, I can agree on anyone who doesn't want to start a war. But when you're dealing with a guy who wants to increase their demands, Hitler, he wanted to build a new German empire, and obviously someone's gonna be greedy, be like, no, I want that, and I want that, and I want that. If you're not gonna give me that, then I'll attack you, kind of thing.
And was replaced with Winston Churchill, who had a slightly different approach
Yeah,
to
he
dealing
did.
with the Germans. Hitler's overall strategy was similar to Germany's First World War strategy. Attack France, defeat France, knocking out the UK in the process, then turn on the Soviet Union and win the war. During the phony war, the Allies had given Hitler time to prepare his forces. Now, he was ready to attack. The Allies had wanted to place troops in Belgium, but Belgium had refused, and in a move that surprised pretty much no one, Hitler launched an invasion to get around France's defenses. The Allies charged into Belgium at full speed to meet the German invasion head-on, and it looked like a repeat of the First World War was coming. But this time, Hitler had a trick up his sleeve. Blitzkrieg. As the Germans advanced, they sent thousands of refugees westward, slowing down the Allies. Then, to the south, the French had left the Ardennes, an area full of hills and forests, pretty under-defended, because they thought it was naturally impenetrable. Well, the Germans were about to penetrate it with everything they had. They smashed 50 Wehrmacht divisions through and encircled the Allied armies at lightning speed. The best of the Allied forces were now trapped. The Germans squeezed in from all sides, taking out France's best armies and nearly wiping out the British too. But they managed to make a desperate last-minute escape at Dunkirk, with British civilian ships even making the perilous journey to bring their young men home. With most of the French forces depleted, the Germans breezed through, taking Paris, and France fell. What the Germans couldn't do in World War I, Hitler had done, just like...
And Hitler felt so good about this. He was getting revenge on the Treaty of Versailles, and he was happy. He was happy. I don't know how to explain it. Like, he was really happy. It took Germany 4 years to invade France, and they failed miserably. But this time, he got revenge on France. It was like a revenge is so sweet, and you just like need time to plan your revenge. I think you just no. You need time for your revenge. Like, your time will come. You can get revenge on them.
that. Hitler hoped that with the fall of France, the UK would also lose hope and sue for peace. But quite annoyingly, it didn't, and he needed to secure the Western Front, so he tried to force them into submission with mind games. The UK were now all alone, and Hitler wanted to emphasize that. First of all, just before France fell, Italy finally declared...
So what Hitler means by mind games is that Hitler, he tried to invade the UK, and he initiated, or I would say launched, the Blitz, which was an all-on attack on London, where I live. I'm not attacked, by the way, just saying. Is that a type of feeling where a bandit, a terrorist, or a criminal would want to threaten to hurt your family? Obviously, you have to give in and give him your stuff. In this case, the UK, seeing that many cities are being bombed, like Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, Sheffield, Newcastle upon Tyne, London, and then the southwest of England is being bombed, and you're still like, you've hurt me severely, but I'm not gonna surrender.
War on the Allies, making the UK's situation even worse. Next, instead of just occupying all of France, Hitler occupied the coastal areas for defense, but allowed France to continue its existence as a German puppet state. This way, it looked like the UK's old ally had decided to switch sides. Hitler also hoped that the UK wouldn't attack any of her old allies' navy bases or colonies in Africa.
Yeah, this also felt good to Hitler for another reason, was that France had a type of empire. So I would say, don't mind that. They conquered. France is France has the colonies of many countries in Africa, which is probably modern-day Senegal, modern-day Mali, modern-day Chad, Algeria, Morocco, and many more. And so the UK, they had no choice but to attack French ships, being like, sorry man, I have to do this to you. You're occupied by the enemy. I got no choice but to blow up your ships. Type of thing.
Or an extra line of defense to the south, but the UK made sure to respond to this by sailing down to France's navy base in Algeria and wrecking a bunch of ships. So have at it. Hitler then began laying down plans for an invasion of Great Britain. Before German troops could land on British soil, he would first need air and naval superiority across the Channel. Waves of German bombers came, while the completely outnumbered RAF worked bravely around the clock in an attempt to quell the German attacks. At first, the Luftwaffe targeted British ports and coastal facilities. Then it attacked RAF bases, crippling the RAF's ability to defend the nation. And it looked like Hitler's Great British invasion was coming. But then, Churchill ordered a...
Excuse me. So, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Hitler tried to mentally make Britain surrender. At a point where Britain nearly surrendered, but they didn't, because I think, yeah, Churchill ordered a bombing of Berlin, and Hitler was so angry that he actually bombed London several times and for several months.
Small, pretty insignificant bombing raid over Berlin. It didn't do much damage, but Hitler was furious, and he immediately ordered the Luftwaffe to refocus its attacks on civilian targets in London. Children were sent off to the countryside, away from their parents to avoid danger, and frequent trips to air raid shelters became a daily occurrence. But British morale held firm. Smiling, knitting, lounging casually, these people have balls of steel. This refocusing on London also gave the RAF breathing space to reorganize, so Hitler kind of shot himself in the foot there. Just the foot for now.
Oh, damn.
Finally, the Luftwaffe sent one massive all-out attack on London, and the RAF successfully repelled it, destroying many of the German aircraft and placing air superiority firmly in British hands. Hitler's invasion had to be postponed, but the bombing of British cities continued for some time.
Alright, I guess that's the first part done. We're going to react on part 2 later on. So guys, if you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, comment, and even share it. I do apologize for my voice. I do feel a bit ill, because I was talking a lot. I think I'm losing my voice. But yeah, guys, if you enjoyed it, then like, subscribe, and if you don't want to, that's perfectly fine, because I do think I was talking a lot. And yeah, see you in the next video. Do please like, subscribe, comment, share, and like I said again.